Let's start with the 13th of July, and it's a very big day for the wing for a couple of different reasons that we'll get to as we go. But 441 records that an armed reconnaissance of the Argenton area was carried out late in the evening. 12 Focke-Wulf 190s were seen west of Argenton. The attack was led by Squadron Leader Brannigan, and the final result was that 10 enemy aircraft were destroyed without loss to ourselves. Although the aircraft flown by Flying Officer Myers was hit in the wing by cannon fire, Flying Officer Myers was credited with 3 destroyed, Squadron Leader Brannigan 2 destroyed, Flight Lieutenant Mott and Copeland, Flying Officer Kimball, Plummer, and McKenzie destroyed 1 each. So huge day for the squadron. That's up against an even match and 10 destroyed without loss, and in fact I'm going to at the end go through the handwritten account by Squadron Leader Brannigan and the typed final account by Flight Lieutenant Myers just to have a closer look at this engagement, since I don't have, like I thought I did yesterday, an account by Johnny Johnson from his book to go through. And 442 gives us, ready for a show at 0600 hours, but then put on 30-minute states, 2 more pilots welcome this afternoon, Flying Officer McLean and Flying Officer Wilson. And I had to pause here to double check. This is a different Wilson from the Flight Lieutenant Wilson we had been seeing show up in 443 squadron records. So this Flying Officer Wilson joining the 442 squadron. Armed recce for 12 at 1630. Lots of cloud. Flying Officer McClarty damaged 109, which fell away and was lost in the clouds. Flight Lieutenant Roseland, the flight commander of B-Flight, chased a Hun into the clouds and was not seen again. Rosie was one of the originals going from Ottawa to Alaska and the Aleutians to England to France. Another armed recce took off in cloudy, windy weather at 2000, shot up a lot of trucks. Big day for 441, who claimed 10 destroyed. Wing Commander Nesbitt held a meeting at 1800 hours to discuss the sad news that 144 Wing was being disbanded. He emphasized that it was no reflection on the wing, which in its short existence had a record of which they were justly proud. But as the most newly formed wing, it was being disbanded in the change of group setup, and as a result, extra bottles were opened later in the officers' mess and speeches and toasts were made. The revelry continued till breakfast time. So we'll have a closer look at the new setup here as we go at the very end. And Wing Commander Nesbitt, I've been ignoring the poor guy, but he, along with Wing Commander Johnson, are both wing commanders of 144 Wing, Nesbitt being sort of like a ground commander, and then Johnson being the wing commander flying in charge of the operations. So Nesbitt has been there the entire time, it's just that his name has really never come up. And then 443 records, weather cloudy and cool, clearing for a short period during the afternoon. Posting advice received today for 2 additional armorers, and advised late this afternoon that 144 Wing is to be broken up and the 3 squadrons sent to other Canadian wings. 443 is to move to 127 Wing on the 14th of June, that's the next day. 442 to 126 Wing, and 441 moves temporarily to 125 Wing with the intention of joining 127 at a later date. Disappointment felt among wing personnel and squadrons at the prospect of the wing breaking up, but it appears that 1 wing must go, and 144, being the most recently formed unit, must therefore accept the axe. Squadron took part in 1 armed recce during the afternoon, and a little over 14 hours of flying time. So probably tomorrow we'll have a closer look at the new setup, and my plan all along has been to keep following these 3 squadrons, even though they are branching out to different wings. And in fact, that's almost how I started from the beginning, just looking at different wings and how they differ in the way they carry out missions. I don't think it's really going to be an issue because we saw before that Squadron Leader Russell, now Wing Commander Russell, is going to be commanding 126 Wing, while Johnson is going to move to 127 Wing. So I don't expect any real changes. But 441 moving to 125 Wing, that's an RAF wing, and it's made up of squadrons of different nationalities. That might be interesting to look at to see if any changes at all come about as a result, but we'll see that a little later in the month. So let's move on into the missions, and first up was late in the day, 1640 to 1730, armed reconnaissance by 442, and this is engaged a mixture of 6 Me-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s. 1 probably destroyed by Flying Officer McClarty, weather cloudy, and Flight Lieutenant Roseland missing again. And it notes in hand that instead of destroyed, it was credited as damaged. Now next up is going to be 1815 to 1920, an armed recce by number 443. 12 aircraft dispatched on armed recce to Argenton, Alençon, Falaise. Vector to Cabourg area to look for Hun transport and aircraft, neither seen. 2 MET destroyed near Falaise, 2 of our aircraft spotted and attacked 12 Me-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s at 3,000 feet. Our aircraft disappeared, and the remainder of the squadron attacked Jerry's. 1 damage claimed by Flight Lieutenant Prest, 6 cloud at 4,000 feet, second layer at 9,000, accurate heavy flak from Con area on return journey at 10,000 feet. And I guess I'm reading that our aircraft disappeared, the remainder attacked, to be poor visibility, so the squadron sort of lost each other in the clouds, with Flight Lieutenant Prest and his section being the only ones to attack and claiming the 1 damage. So the Luftwaffe is definitely out in force again today. Next up is an armed recce by 441 Squadron, 2110 to 2115. This is the big one. Let me save this one for last because I have some more stuff I want to go over in conjunction with this. And in fact, taking off just 5 minutes behind this was 442 on another armed recce, 2115 to 2135. And this is 5 MET flamers, weather cloudy, nil enemy aircraft opposition. And now we can come back to this 441 Squadron armed recce because this was a very, very big day. 10 destroyed to 0 losses. So the description here is simply armed recce to Argenton area. The squadron attacked 12 Focke-Wulf 190s west of Argenton, and Flying Officer Myers destroyed 3, Brannigan 2, Mott, Copeland, Kimball, Plummer, and McKenzie each destroyed 1 for a total of 10 to 0. What I really wanted to go through here were these accounts given by Myers and Brannigan. Let's go ahead and go through these, starting with Myers, and this would have been recorded as part of a debrief, recording the facts of the engagement. So, height of enemy aircraft at first sighting below 100 feet, our height 8,000 feet, our casualties nil, enemy casualties claimed, 3 destroyed, and the narrative is that Squadron Leader Brannigan spotted 12 Focke-Wulf 190s on the treetops from about 8,000 feet. I flew abreast of him, pulling up about 100 to 75 yards behind the 190s. I fired a 2-second burst at one of the aircraft, which blew up and disintegrated in the air. The rest did a hard break port, which I did also. I got on the tail of another 190 and opened fire at 200 to 250 yards range, 15-degree deflection. After a short burst, he went on fire and slithered into the ground, bursting into flames. This was also confirmed by Squadron Leader Brannigan. At this time, I saw 3 190s on my tail firing. 1 burst hit my port wing. Pulling hard, I found myself at 75 to 90 degrees from the 190, giving him a ring and a quarter. And that's referring to where he puts the aircraft in the gun sight, and I'll find something that I can put up as a visual aid on that. I gave him a burst, and then I pulled up 2 rings at 300 yards. Dropping my nose, I noticed that I was hit and began to slowly turn towards the ground. Before he hit, he was in a flat spin, and I gave another 2-second burst, blowing him up. I saw numerous fires burning on the ground and 2 parachutes. I claimed 3 Focke-Wulf 190s destroyed. Seen a gun used, so there would have been footage of this. I'll make an attempt to find some. I'm highly doubtful, though. And the significance of these underlined passages here, disintegrated in the air, burst into flames, blowing him up, that relates to the criteria for getting credit for an aerial victory. So it has to be a positive confirmation and then be confirmed by somebody else. And he mentions that Squadron Leader Brannigan confirms everything that he describes here. So he was credited with 3 official aerial victories. Now I want to go through this one. I haven't even read through this one yet, but this is the handwritten account by Squadron Leader Brannigan of this action. And he begins, on July 13th, I was leading the squadron in an armed recce flying at 8,000 feet, heading north, when I saw 11 or 12 aircraft on the deck heading west. They were at 8 o'clock to me. I called the squadron and told them and waited until the chaps were in fairly good position, and then I began to dive down. The Huns passed about 2 miles to the south of the city, and I make that out to be Leigle. Yeah, that's what that has to be, and if that's so, that would have been over to the east. So yeah, right here, 190's on the deck, south of the town, moving west. It notes that they were going very fast and were carrying jet tanks underneath the belly, not bombs. I told the boys to get underneath them if possible, which they did. I positively identified them as 190s, saw the, and that's going to be black crosses, yeah that makes sense, gave the order to fire. I fired about 2 seconds at the first, then there were explosions on the port wing and the cockpit, and he went straight in. I looked to port, and my number 2's first one was, and I make that out to be blowing up in the something, I can't make out the last word, also. They realized something was astray and commenced jettisoning their tanks. And yeah, I just can't make out the rest of that, but it says in effect that last one went into a spin and then hit the ground. There are some words that I can't make out, but that's the gist of it. And he continues on the next page, I saw my number 2's second one go in just ahead of my second. This all happened in about 30 seconds. I broke up and orbited near the top and immediately afterwards saw 3 more explosions, all within the space of another half minute. Also saw 3 parachutes. One of the aircraft was being fired at by Flying Officer Copeland, who broke over the top of the Hun, who went, you see, something to the effect of straight into the deck or straight at the deck and burst into flames. After another few minutes, I saw a Spit still chasing a 190 at about 100 yards range. He closed to about 40 yards, and I saw smoke from the tail to the nose of the 190, and this turned out to be Flying Officer Plumbers. The action took place at approximately 20:35 and approximately 5 miles west of Legla. I saw 3 parachutes opening and going down during this encounter, and I claimed 2 Focke-Wulf 190s destroyed, and this one also notes cine camera used, so footage does exist of this somewhere, probably not anywhere that's accessible to me. Now, for some reason I had this taking place over here west of Argenton. Let me double check the record on that real quick. And yeah, sure enough, the record does note that as being west of Argenton. I'm not going to make any kind of corrections on that, and that just illustrates, well, just the nature of primary sources like this. You are guaranteed to find all kinds of contradictions when working with documents created at the time, on the fly, and it's really only after the fact, drawing on multiple sources and then piecing things together, that you can, over time, come up with something that approaches a definitive account for whatever that's worth. But yeah, for our purposes, this is more than adequate when it comes to documenting it on my little map here. So let me wrap things up here for the day, and I'll come back tomorrow and we'll start to untangle this web of where these squadrons are going, where they're going to operate out of. Now here's one example. This is ALG B11, where 441 Squadron is going to spend some time. So I'll dig around for some overhead imagery of these bases. I never did have any luck on B3. Maybe I'll have some luck on B11 and the others, but more to come on that tomorrow. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.